folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, yesterday was our local meeting here in the Ozarks, and I wanted to give kind of a recap, a little action report on what goes on, but also talk about how you can do this in your area, and I want to encourage you to do that because I understand that some of you, don't live anywhere near here. And couldn't possibly make it to these meetings. And there may be some in your area that you could go to, and if not, you should be starting this kind of stuff in your area. So I feel that yesterday was the best meeting we've had yet, and maybe part of that is because I didn't really have to talk a whole lot. I had speakers lined up throughout the entire meeting, so I actually got to sit back and enjoy the meeting and listen to other people talk. So that was a big benefit for me. But we did have a really amazing meeting. There were about 75-80 people there, including all the kids. Had plenty of food. If you come to our meetings and you leave hungry, then it's your own fault. Because we have a lot of food brought in, and there were a couple of families that just were very, very giving and gracious this time. And man, they just brought in a lot of stuff, tuna sandwiches and egg salad sandwiches and huge trays we had like the salmon and bagels with cream cheese and fruits and vegetables and cake and cookies and just on and on. It was like this never-ending sea of food that we had there. So that was always good. Us country boys, we like to go to a meeting that's got something to put in our belly. But we also had some really good speakers there, and I think the people, the crowd seemed really fired up once it was over. To start it off, we had a couple of guys from the Missouri Liberty Alliance, and that is a very new grassroots organization. They have a YouTube channel, and I want to encourage you to go to their YouTube channel and subscribe. They just started it, so there's they don't have a lot of subscribers yet because they just started this YouTube channel. But and even if you're not in Missouri, yes, they do focus a lot on Missouri, but even if you're not in Missouri, subscribe to their channel because these guys are smart. Patrick and Jimmy, they know their stuff. And they're not politicians. They're regular people just like myself and you. They're preppers. They believe the same way. They think the same way. There are people, right? They're not a bunch of, big city, whatever kind of people, politicians. But the thing is these two guys was very, very instrumental on getting the Second Amendment Protection Act passed here in Missouri, legislation that was recently signed by the governor. If you've not followed it at all, it is, and there are other states that have some type of Second Amendment Protection Act, but this is the first time that it had teeth to it. It says that if any government agent or agencies or a representative of the government, a police officer, a district attorney or anything, prosecutes you on laws that this bill deems in a violation, which is basically any federal law that's in violating the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri State Constitution when it comes to firearms, then you can be paid a certain amount of money. I believe it's like $50,000 or more, so that that government, if they wrongfully arrest you or wrongfully charge you, they have to pay you a bunch of fees because they have violated this state law. So it has some teeth to it. It's a really good law, and there's already been some fighting back and forth between the state of Missouri and the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General in Washington, that they're wanting us to get rid of this law. So anyways, these two guys were very instrumental in that. And so they gave a really good talk about the whole process, what it really means to us as Missourians, and then some of the things that they have, coming down the line. And I won't go into great detail because you need to come to the meetings to find that out. But their goal with this organization is to make Missouri the freest state. And, the guy said, he said, we as preppers, he said, we prep for our families. He said, and then in a meeting like this, we're prepping with our communities. He said, but we need to be prepping our states and getting our states ready for what is to come, and that's what's happening down the line. So that set us up with some good laws, so that that we have at least some protection and buffer against what is coming at us on a federal and international level that we all talk about a lot. So they were excellent guys, and they were super smart and very very helpful in answering questions with the crowd. I mean, they talked for quite a while and answered everybody's question, and everyone enjoyed it. So that was a real treat to us. And then one of our regulars in the group, he is an expert when it comes to medical stuff. He's a medic that has been trained and worked up in the mountains doing wilderness medicine, going in, trapped hikers and people on snowmobiles that's wrecked, or they fly them in on a chopper to pick up skiers or whatever, that kind of stuff. That's what this guy has done for a living. And so he brought in a lot of his first aid gear, different packs that he has, everything from a little small something you could carry on you like an IFAC, to a vehicle, to camping, to a very large, I think he said it valued somewhere around $7,500 pack that he would take into the wilderness to rescue people. That's what they did, was search and rescue, and he was the medic. That was a really good talk. He basically just did an introduction to what you can put in a first aid kit, the kind of things that you need. And he's already agreed that over time he will continue these discussions, going more in depth, and we will probably do some field exercises in first aid, and maybe even some overnighters. So that was very exciting to hear also. Then a local couple that I've been friends with for a while that lived just not too far from us, and they were born and raised here in the Ozarks. These people have been preppers before the term preppers existed. The kind of the country folk that prepping is just normal to them. They've been living this way their whole life, and they have a lot of really good insight and wisdom in how little tips and tricks how to save money. And so they showed us some things that they use to preserve food, and it was a really good talk. Everyone enjoyed that also. They got to come up and kind of do a little show and tell on some of the equipment that they have actually manufactured on their own to vacuum seal things, and it was really good. And then I talked afterwards for a little bit, and what we're doing, what I talked about, one of the members in our group, he has an impressive supply of seeds that he has collected over the years. Some of them are his mother's. Some of these seeds are quite old, but they're properly sealed up, vacuum sealed. They've been stored properly, and we have a lot of seeds, and that's what I've got here. I'm going to show you here in a minute. And what he's done, he has donated a very large portion of these seeds for our group, and we're going to start a community seed bank. And we're still working out the details as a group. There's a few people that stepped up that's going to help do this, and we're going to start off taking these seeds, and we're going to break them down into smaller packages and distribute them to the group. And they will grow, they're from these seeds, plant them and grow, and then they will harvest some of those seeds, and then others that they are growing, and give back to the seed bank. And we will start having a community seed bank, and I think it's a really good first step in building that kind of community bond. Let me just kind of go through a little bit. I mean, some of these, the labels are a little hard to read, but as you can see, there's quite a few seeds. This is some radishes, and here's some butternut squash, and not sure what these are. They look like some type of radish also. Beets, and we've got 4 pounds of parsnips, and it just keeps going and going. Some broccoli, some other type of squash here. Oh, cucumber. This thing is full, folks. It's about 50 pounds or so, 50, maybe 60 pounds of seeds in this tub. And so that is some of the stuff that we're doing here with our local group. So if you guys and gals are within a drive, I mean, we have people coming from out of state. We have several people coming from out of state. We are in South Central Missouri Ozarks. We're in the meeting is held in Texas County, which is kind of right in the middle of the Missouri Ozarks. But we have people coming up from Arkansas, and a guy that's moving here from Texas came to the meeting, and he's going to start being a regular. So that's the kind of stuff that we've got going. And I've talked about it before. We have whole families come, and that's the big key. And a lot of times these meetings, they're either the building isn't big enough, the room isn't big enough, or sometimes they just want it to be just adults. And we encourage entire families. Bring your kids. We are in a big enough facility that they can have enough room to play inside, and it's a community center. So outside there's playground or equipment, and there's a large park area, so they can go outside and play. And it's impossible to build a community, whether it's some kind of homestead, self-sufficient prepper community, build relationships with people if you're not including the whole family. And so that's very important for us to see that there are families, there's young and old there. One lady, this was her first time there, and she has some kids, and she emailed me last night, and her kids are older, they're all teenagers. And she emailed me last night after the meeting. She said, thank you, for the meeting and for inviting us and stuff. She said, my kids didn't want to come. And I can imagine, teenagers like, oh, Mom, I don't want to come to some boring meeting like that, talking about this stuff. She said, but after the meeting, she said all of her kids, they were asking when the next one was, and making sure we're going to go, aren't we? We're going to go to the next one. She said they really enjoyed it. And so that's very important for our group, is to include entire families and really, really encourage that. And there's just a lot of good information being floated around. We have a lot of mingling time before and after the official meeting gets going, and finding out there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom floating around in that room. And we're continually planning for new things, and I think we've got a good thing going here. So if you live within a driving distance and you want to be involved, we usually have these every 4 or 5 weeks. I'm waiting to hear from the lady that's in charge of the building of when the next available date is, but it's probably going to be 4 or 5 weeks from yesterday. And we'll have our next one, and I'll be sure to make the announcement here. Now, I know a lot of you live in areas and you're like, man, this is what I want. I want to be able to go to something like this. We're talking about, doing some self-defense training. We have someone that is an expert in that and has stepped up and said, hey, I'm willing to, teach a class if someone would like that. We've got people with military and police background. We've got people that are engineers and mechanics and welders and, medical people, all in our room, teachers, educators, all kinds of stuff. And so that's the hope. That's what we're doing. We're teaching each other what we know. And I know many of you're like, man, I just wish that I had that. Well, it's possible that you can find that in your area. There are meetings in and around the country like this, and you kind of have to dig around. There are some places online where people will post meetings that they have, and so you can find out there. And if I can find some links to the places like that, go ahead and click on those links down below. I'll see if I can find them. I can't promise it, but I'll try to find some links. There are other sources. I know Viking Preparedness, which is another YouTube channel, over on his Patreon page. They post local meetings on there all across the United States. So there's a source also. So there are meetings like this that are being held all over the United States. But if there isn't, you can start your own. You really can. You need to find a place to meet. Sometimes a restaurant, they have a meeting room, sometimes a library, maybe a hotel meeting room. There are places. This is just a local community center, and we rent out the whole building because it's really cheap to do. And just start passing the word around. You know, when I started this, I would post flyers at local hardware stores and local farm stores. And then of course I would talk about it here on my channel. And I know that many of you say, well, I want to start a meeting, but I don't have a big YouTube channel and I don't have people that I can, can talk to online like you do. Well, that's fine. If you want to start a meeting, you can email me at preparedhomestead@protonmail.com, which I'll have a link up for that, and it's also in the description. And you can email me, try to do it a couple of weeks at least before your meeting starts, and tell me where it's at, when, any details that people need to know, and I will mention it on my channel. So I will do for you the same thing that I'm doing for the meetings that we have here. I have no problem promoting your meeting on this channel. This is something that's necessary, folks. I talk about community building, and community is a very general term, I get it, and it can look very different for different people. But basically having that connection with like-minded individuals to help each other out, to learn from each other, to support each other, that kind of just that emotional support. We don't feel like we're the only ones in the world that lives this way and thinks this way. And then also for in the future, when things continue and progressively get worse, to have people to barter with, to help with safety and security and many other issues that could arise. It is very important. It is one of the most important things that you can do in your preparedness plan. Not just prepare with food and prepare your body and prepare your mind, but you need to prepare with building connections with people that you can trust. And doing it in a setting like this, it's an easy way to get to know people and start to build that trust. Because if you wait until the balloon goes up and the feces has hit the fan, it's going to be real hard to build trust with people after that point. And so it's very critical to do that now. And so I want to encourage you to try to get plugged into a local group, and if there isn't one, start your own. If you have any questions about that, I'm certainly no expert, but I'll advise any way that I can. And again, I will promote your meetings on this channel if you'd like me to do that also. All right, folks, if you're local, please plan on coming to our next meeting. I'll make the announcement on the date and time in the next coming couple of days, but certainly come if you're close enough to come to our meetings, because we've got a really good thing going here, folks. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.